Many black people keeps asking, why do white people hate us so much? Some have speculated that it's because we commit most violent crimes, but that's untrue because FBI data shows that most violent crimes are committed by Caucasian white males. Some say it's because black people have declared a war on police officers, but that's also untrue. The same data shows that most cops are killed by white men. Some say it's because we make up the majority of welfare recipients. But that's also untrue. Data shows that most welfare recipients are in fact white women. Some say it's because we use affirmative action and it gives us unfair advantage over white people. But that's also untrue. Data shows that the largest benefactors of affirmative action have been white women. Therefore, by extension, the white community benefits most from affirmative action. Total lies. Some say it's because black people are so ghetto. But it was the white society that created the black ghettos. Moreover, those who control the people's media images literally control their culture, and the white society controls our media image. Through the white society's control over our media image, it was actually them that created the current niggerized ghetto culture. This isn't scapegoating. It's a true hidden science known as negative media social engineering. Furthermore, the white society was hating us long before they socially engineered in the nigger culture. They were killing us when we were and lynching us and doing everything to us. When we were saying yes sir, no sir, no nigger, no ghetto, they were still killing us. So none of these speculative reasons are why they hate us. Many black people have asked, given that there are so many other racial groups within the white dominant society, why then are white oppressive forces subjugation tactics deployed the harshest against black people? Why are black people the group most denigrated, most marginalized, most criminalized, most discriminated, and most subjugated within the white dominant society? It's a good question. The truth will be hard for many to accept because it's a truth that many have been socially engineered from seeing. The reason why the white ruling elites have devoted so much time, effort, and synergy and financial support towards the subjugation of black people isn't just because they hate us. It's the blind white masses that represent the blind sheep population that just hates black people. Their hatred and perceptions about black people have been negatively shaped by anti-black propaganda campaigns that have been constantly fed into society by the ruling class. Keeping the collective aggressions of the white masses directed towards black people prevents them from unifying against the white ruling elites that are the true architects of their discourse. It's exactly as President Lyndon B. Johnson once said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down at and he will empty his pockets for you. Lyndon Johnson said that many years ago. It's an elaborate perception management system. Our society is scripted by the ruling elites. This perception management system prevents the white masses from unifying against the white ruling elites. Now, however, the reason the ruling white elites subjugates black people the harshest is not because they just hate black people. Unlike the white masses that have been brainwashed to hate black people, to perceive us through fraudulent anti-propaganda, the ruling elites have access to true information. The ruling elites therefore have access to the many true hidden narratives about black people that makes black people the greatest threat against a system of white supremacy. The hidden reason why black people are the group most denigrated, most marginalized, most criminalized, most discriminated, and most subjugated within the white dominant society is because black people represent the greatest threat. Within all manners of warfare, the group representing the greatest threat is always attacked the harshest. This process is known as character assassination. This creates societal conditions that aid in the subjugation of the group that has been deemed the greatest threat. It's a social science. Now, I know that my statement that black people represent the greatest threat against a system of white supremacy is perhaps laughable to many. Of course. Many people naturally find it as being a hard pill to swallow, given that black people are constantly depicted as being the leeches and the criminals of the white society, the lowest of the low. It's a commonly held perception. However, perception is rarely, if ever, consistent with reality. Moreover, the oppressor's depiction of the oppressed is never a true one. It's always a false one. It's always negatively distorted to serve the oppressor's nefarious agendas against the oppressed. This has remained a consistent fact throughout history and is still especially true now in regards to black people living under white oppression. The white society's negative depictions of black people is a result of an elaborate perception management system that bears almost no relations to reality whatsoever. Perception management is a propaganda technique that involves altering the public perception of reality to suit the objective of the ruling class. It is an essential part of modern information warfare. In order for the white society to maintain its social dominance over black people, it's crucial to keep public perceptions about black people negative, as well as keeping black people's perception of ourselves collectively also negative. So deception is essential for meeting this objective. The following are a few hidden narratives about black people that deem this perception management as being necessary for maintaining white dominance over black people. After slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, the advancements made by African Americans following slavery was extraordinary. In spite of receiving no reparation and being constantly plagued by the evils of white racism, African Americans built many self-sufficient cities across the nation. Those black-built cities often exceeded those by the white neighbors. This resulted in many white mobs rioting and destroying those black cities. Also, black segregated schools had made significant difference in black illiteracy, which was 30% in 1919, had dropped to less than 7% by 1955. Black illiteracy had almost disappeared in the North, and in some areas, black illiteracy was less than white illiteracy. Such was the case in New York. In 1950, black colleges had 71,000 students. Nearly all were in the South. 553 black people had doctorate degrees. Furthermore, between the year of 1870 through 1940, African Americans submitted 726 invention patents to the U.S. Patent Office. Those numbers more than double those submitted by whites during the same time frame. This scenario of black people outpacing whites and making inventions has never changed, has never stopped. It's merely concealed from the public through this perception management system, through the white society's monopoly over information. The hidden fact is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by inventions made by black people. The technological advancements made by black people is unrivaled by any other racial group, and under the circumstances is extraordinary. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generation, the truth will seem utterly preposterous and a speaker a raving lunatic. I know I sound like a raving lunatic, but study these facts. Research the facts. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phone. We wouldn't have cameras with microphones. Our cell phones wouldn't even we wouldn't have emails, microphones, GPS, hearing aids. We won't have no touch tones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security system, no motorized vehicles, no steam engines, no traffic lights, no working light bulbs, no elevators, no skyscrapers, no air conditions, no modern color PC, no 3D movies, no central heatings, no refrigerators, no helicopters, no washing machines, no dryers, no refrigerated trunk, no blood banks, no fiber optic, no nanotechnology, no accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have famous sanitary pads, lawnmower, pencil sharpener, etc., etc. The technological advancement made by black people following slavery was extraordinary. White oppressive forces deemed this hidden scenario of black people outpacing in the production of inventions could undermine the white society's position of social dominance over black people. According to white social scientists, in order for a dominant group to maintain its position of social dominance, the narratives fed into a society must exalt the dominant group above its subordinate population. Doing so endorses the dominant group's position of social dominance. It also instills a value system into the collective mind of the subordinate population that makes them more compliant with the dominant group's position of dominance over their lives. Now, so therefore, they determined that this scenario was undermined their position of dominance. So it was determined by social scientists that it's a social science. Social science is one of the branches of science devoted to the study of human behavior, specifically how people interact with each other, behave, and develop as a culture. Social science. Because of black people's extraordinary abilities undermines the white society's position of social dominance, black people have unknowingly proven themselves as being a threat against the preservation of white social dominance. So something had to be done. Also now, black unified protest against the system of white supremacy was also deemed as black people have been a threat against the system of white supremacy. During the 1960s, African Americans' unified protest against the U.S. system of white supremacy was unprecedented. African Americans confronted it on all fronts. It was confronted through civil disobedient tactics, militant means, nonviolent protests, and with black lawyers pleading for equality within America's highest Supreme Court. Okay? So African American unified protest still remains unrivaled by any other minority groups in U.S. history. African Americans had again unknowingly proved themselves as being the greatest threat against the system of white supremacy. Twice now. Although all white governments publicly profess equality for all of their citizens, in reality, they are all unrelentingly committed towards the preservation of their nation's white dominance. This unrelenting commitment towards the preservation of white dominance necessitates that something had to be done to neutralize the black threat against the preservation of white dominance. Witnessing the immense threat that black people represent against the preservation of white dominance, white social scientists determined that by creating a perception management system that's deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that perpetually falsely exalts the white brand and falsely marginalizes the black brand, that this could sustain false assumptions within the society that aids in maintaining white social dominance over black people. A society function based on a narrative that fed into it. Moreover, by negligently distorting everything that black people believe about ourselves collectively, they can condition us to perceive ourselves through a fraudulent inferior identity that makes us more compliant and makes us more accepting of a subordinate status within the white dominant society. Our society is scripted. Your perceptions of reality is an elaborate white deception created by a nefarious perception management system. Public perception of reality is rarely, if ever, consistent with reality. Public perceptions of reality is actually shaped by the narratives that are fed into a society. Therefore, the basic tool required for the distortion of reality is to merely feed distorted narratives into a society. The public at large will function based on those narratives. Because the white society controls all the narratives that are fed into society, they literally own the interpretation of reality. They've exploited this scenario by whitewashing the perception of reality. It's a well-proven social science tactic and is being used for maintaining white social dominance over black people. And the only way you can see, if you're not clearly thinking, the general population doesn't know what's happening and it doesn't even know it doesn't know. When you critically think, look at how cartoonish it is that all narratives we receive about white people are positive and all we receive about ourselves are negative. That's cartoonish and unrealistic. But see, most people don't critically think. And it creates perception that affects how our society functions. The white society is literally falsely scripted. It's falsely scripted to perpetrate the myth of white superiority. Doing so aids in maintaining its white dominance. According to social science, perception is more important than reality because people function based upon their perceptions rather than reality. So the white society maintains its dominance by feeding false information into society that creates a perception of white superiority. And that perception that empowers the white society and disenfranchises black people. We have to understand this system in order to elevate from it. We have to understand social engineering in order to elevate from it. We have to understand these sciences. One love and peace.